Well, for more on this, Jack Cloonan joins me from Maine. He's a former FBI agent who was part of the Bureau's unit for Osama bin Laden. Thank you so much for joining us. What is the priority now at this point of the investigation?
Well, as you can see, what's unfolded rather rapidly after the events of last Friday is that the police and the intelligence services have ramped up their capabilities. The fact that they had a phone discovered near one of the bodies of the person who committed suicide, they've obviously exploited the phone, they've dumped the memory, and it's allowed them to go out into a spiderweb type operation and find people who are likely to be associated with this. I suspect that all the people that are on the list, or at least on the radar of the DST, which is the French internal security, and the DGSE, which is their external security services, will all be looking at those people who they thought might have fought with Daesh in Syria, who are back in country. And make no mistake about this, that I think you listen to the language of President Hollande. President Hollande says that they are at a state of war. So I suspect that there will be a lot more police action taken in the form of, we're not going to wait for something to happen, we're going to preempt things. And there will be mistakes made, there's no question, but the largest issue that he has to confront is the protection of the public. And I think the public plays a very, very critical role in all of these things. The attacks are being re-engineered backwards. You don't make suicide vests, you don't acquire Kalashnikovs, you don't acquire high explosives without a support network. And this support network is going to be fleshed out in the coming days and weeks. But I will suggest to you that it will extend across Europe. It'll be in the Eurozone, and it will reach into the Maghreb, into North Africa. This is historically where a lot of this activity has come from, and I suspect that you will see this. They really want to get to the ringleader right away, because you don't know if he is the only ringleader, that he has communications with logistical cells who provide material, and he has contacts with the people who actually have agreed to commit suicide and carry out these attacks. These people that are willing to do this are not afraid of dying, they are not afraid of the police, and they're willing to take innocent lives. Again, at the stadium on Friday, you saw where the explosives, the suicide vests were exploded at 3 different entry points to the stadium. It's a lot easier for the police and security services to protect hard targets. It's increasingly difficult to protect soft targets, like stores, like shopping malls, like restaurants. This is really the most difficult thing that law enforcement and the intelligence services not only have to confront in Paris, but across Europe.
Jack, as we mentioned earlier, you were a part of the FBI Bureau unit for the hunt for Osama bin Laden. So few people would know better than you the difficulty it was to track him down. Do you anticipate that it will be just as difficult to track down Abdelhamid Aboud? And if so, what kind of dent will that put in Daesh?
Well, I think we have to accept this proposition, that even if you capture this gentleman, or in fact he is killed in a shootout with the police, it doesn't end the battle. These organizations, Daesh and others, are much larger than a single individual. This man may very have a lot of responsibilities and is an iconic figure. But let's suppose that we capture him in 48 hours and he is killed. Does that eliminate the threat? The answer is no. The threat exists. There will be somebody who will step forward and take his place. Now, you mentioned Osama bin Laden. Yes, trying to hunt down Osama bin Laden, as you know, took almost 11 years. He had a safe haven. I suggest to you that this gentleman who is on the run, his world will begin to shrink a lot. If people were taken alive in these raids and they decide that they want to make a deal with the police services and talk, this is something that is incredibly valuable, because they may know something that the police will never get via an intercept, never get to via their broad investigations. Because you have to answer the following questions: who, what, when, why. Only he knows what he has set in motion. And you have to assume if there are other cells out there that they are compartmentalized. And by that, I mean they don't necessarily all communicate with each other. He is critical to it all, and that's why we need to find them.
Jack Cloonan, thank you so much for joining us and for your insight.